If you want to think differently, I would ask yourself this. I'd say, what am I afraid of? That could be something that happened to you in 6th grade and you're still afraid of it. And then I would set a standard where you can fail at that and share it with somebody, because that person will challenge you. They'll be real with you. And then you'll be much sharper because of it.
Welcome to the Up Your Average podcast, where Keith and Doug give no-nonsense advice to level up your life. So buckle up and listen closely to Up Your Average.
Good morning, Doug.
Keith, on the way to North Webster, Indiana's coffee shop that I like this morning, I passed a sign and it said, "Good luck, Kosciuszko County 4-H'ers." And 4-H is a big deal up in Kosciuszko County, Wabash County. And in Carmel, I don't know if 4-H is that big of a deal. I mean, maybe it is and I'm missing it. But I love the hype around 4-H. It is a pretty cool family rally. And you see these young kids doing big things, whether it's with animals, crafts, whatever. They're expressing their God-given creativity, and I just love it.
Well, 4-H seems like the country version of Boy Scouts, and I'm a big fan of that, and I'm a big fan of just living your best life, too. So shout out to the Hamilton County 4-H, because they... I think their fair ends Friday or Sunday, maybe.
Okay, so 4-H. Do you know the H's?
No, let's hear it.
I didn't know the H's either. I had to ask the Google or the Claude. But head, heart, hands, and health. Head, heart, hands, and health. That's good stuff. That's a good education in itself. That's a summertime education when you're not in school.
I love it. Like the Boy Scout motto, I might have said it last week, is be prepared. And learning that as a 10, 12, 15-year-old, it just occurred to me that has had a big influence over my life. And I forget what it's called. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and country as part of Boy Scouts. And then just the idea of what's honor. Nobody really talks about honor much anymore, but that was part of Boy Scouts. And so those, as a guy that's not much about tradition, I think there's some great value in those sort of things to help young people see life from a different vantage point than maybe what they're seeing in other places.
Yeah, no, it's great. Your topic of today, I slept well, but I kept waking up thinking, what the heck am I going to bring to this topic? And so I had to wake up early. I set my alarm early, Keith, so that I could go to the coffee shop and just with an open mind say, all right, what is this all about? And how do I go into places that would make a difference? Because this topic is one that you could say, hey, based on my experiences, this or that. But to really think deeply about it and to think, okay, am I allowed to change my opinion? Are we allowed to do that? Are we allowed to say, this is what I used to think, this is what I think now? And where there's a track record of it on social media with your personal Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever your thing is that you like, you can go back and you can say, oh, this is what Doug thought, or this is how Doug thinks. Probably a good reason never to voice anything on TikTok. But
well, let me say what the topic is.
Right. Yeah, what's the topic?
Well, what I texted you was 3 things you once thought were so and now see differently. And it comes from a quote that is either attributed to Will Rogers or Mark Twain that says, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." and Darwin said it another way. He said, "Ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge."
That's good.
And really, what I was alluding to was I was a very confident man in my 20s. I mean, I knew it all in my 20s. I don't know about you.
Oh, I'm sure I still think I know it all at 50, and there's going to be some evolution between now and 70.
Yeah. Well, and so I made a short list of those things that I thought I knew at the time, and then go, oh yeah, I've quite a bit evolved on that, and so I would let you jump into it first, Doug. Throw your idea out and let's see what that looked like.
Well, I decided to ease into it uh, with something in my 20s and then get a little more close to home and just go right now. Like, what am I thinking right now? And so to ease into this, uh, I was known as Skinny Doug pretty much my whole life. Elementary school, middle school, high school. When I got my driver's license, I was 5'2", 96 pounds. I was the guy who got pulled over by the police because they didn't think I was old enough to drive. So I was skinny Doug. And what do skinny kids do? Skinny kids run because they're not carrying extra weight around. And so I became a cross country runner because I was a skinny kid. And what do skinny kids not do? Skinny kids don't lift weights. Skinny kids don't go to the gym. Who does that? Football players, wrestlers. Well, it may have been an upper limit challenge. I don't know what it was, but it was wrong thinking. Just because Skinny Doug hadn't put on any weight yet, he should have been hitting the weight room, but he wasn't. I wasn't confident to do it. I was afraid. I'd never done a bench press before. I didn't want to look like an idiot who doesn't know what he's doing. I didn't want to be embarrassed by just having the bar and maybe some fives on it. And so what would I do? I wouldn't do it. I'd just keep running, or I would ride my bicycle. And so all of that looked good, but I was missing out on the reality that weights help a man. And so thinking differently was, hey, skinny kids, even though I'm not skinny anymore, I'm not skinny anymore, but I still have that in my past where I have to think differently and say, hey, weights help a guy. Don't be afraid. Go in there and lift some weights. And even though I don't look like a weightlifter today, I go in there and I lift some weights and it's great. And so that's an area, that's probably a real easy area of my life, one that I can talk about to anybody and not get too uncomfortable, at least today. That the idea that a runner can switch to lifting some weights and keep running and lifting weights and just be a healthier version.
That's so beautiful. That's really cool. I had depending on how long we converse about that, I'll get either more kind of transparent or not. But the first one that comes to mind is graduating from a mid-major college and not like an Ivy League or a major college. I went into the workforce with maybe some insecurities about my education. And then once I hit the workforce, I'm like, oh, it doesn't seem like the education matters so much. And then I had success in the business world. And so in my 20s, it went from insecurity to overconfidence. And I don't think the insecurity is good, and I don't think the overconfidence is good. And then in my 30s, I got taught some real hardcore lessons about life and these sort of things. And so, humility is the answer, and that's kind of like that Darwin quote that most people that have knowledge aren't that confident in your face. You know what I mean? Like they're pretty reserved, and so the cost to go from lacking confidence to overconfidence to probably what would be a natural level It was an expensive thing, but I would encourage you 20-year-olds that you probably are smarter than me when I was 20, but you probably don't know as much yet because sometimes you just got to hit the sander to get to realize what you actually do know.
I was listening to one of my favorite podcast guys, and he was interviewing a very high profile person that we all know. And he asked this high profile person, which is better, humility or curiosity?
Oh, wow.
I thought that was a great question. And the high profile person said, and this guy's a high profile person, he says, it's humility. Because if you're not humble, you can't think, I wonder if there's a different way of doing this, and then start to be curious about it. I thought
I,
it was great.
I was thinking that they might be just opposite sides of the same coin.
Oh,
Humility allows you to be more curious, at least for me, right?
exactly.
Like
That's
oh, I
exactly what
probably
he was saying.
yeah, because I that's one of the things I like about my talking to Grok because um, I can just be out somewhere and just question what I thought about something. Like I could be in the woods and see something there that I thought was so, and just ask it, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, right? I was sitting
Yeah.
in my I was sitting in my yard this week, and we're trying to sell our house, and I was looking across the street, and my neighbor had she has manicured her yard, and it's like the old joke when you go into a barber shop and there's two barbers and one has a good hairdo, which barber do you choose? And it's the one with the bad hairdo because he cut the other guys, right? Like, and so my neighbor's yard, when I sit in the driveway, is the yard I see. It's the perfect yard. I don't see my yard because I'm facing it, but on this particular day, I was sitting in my yard and I was looking down at the grass in my yard, and it's polluted with dandelions, violets, clover, and probably some crabgrass, amongst other things, right? And I was feeling pressure looking at my neighbor's weedless yard. And so I said to Grok, I was like, hey, it seems like to me that my yard was the standard yard when I was a kid. Like I don't remember seeing any yards like that when I was a kid, but that could be a memory thing. And my Grok's going, and it says yes. In the 60s and 70s, that was the standard yard. And so I said, well, I have a hypothesis why it isn't that way anymore. Want to guess what my hypothesis was?
Tell me.
3 companies: Monsanto, um, Scott, and who would be one of the other ones? It's not coming to me.
Boy, I don't know. I know the turf builder 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And so all those things evolved in the 70s and 80s and built into the mindset of people the idea that a weedless yard is the standard. And that all happened from the 70s and 80s, and nobody had it before that. And the only place that had it before that was a golf course.
Well, both sides of the same coin. You mentioned that. I'm listening to you. That's pretty clever because if you are curious about something and it goes wrong, you're probably going to have to deal with some humility. And so I like the way you're thinking on that, and just even you have a big thing about thinking differently. Just being willing to say, you know what, I'm going to hold this opinion loosely. That's a big deal to even start there. And so one of the areas as we think about this question, what are some things that you've changed to your opinion or your worldview, or what was your specific question, Keith?
I'm looking it up here. Give me a second.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
3 things you once thought were so and now think differently.
So one of the things that I once thought were so, and it's not even anything anyone taught me. No one taught me how to procrastinate. But I could pretty much procrastinate in life and get the job done, still get the job done through personality. And there was a time in my life when I was really struggling to get the job done through personality. And I called my pastor, Pastor Rukus. What a great guy, a Greek guy. And I said, "Hey, Pastor Rukus, could we have a breakfast or something?" That's what old people do. They have breakfasts. And so I go meet my pastor for breakfast. And he says to me, "Doug, I just want you to know that sometimes you can't get things done through personality." And I remember thinking, what is he even talking about? And I pondered that and dwelt and thought about it. And he was so right that sometimes this procrastination or maybe stuckness or whatever you want to call it, you're leaning it, or I would lean in on my own strength and try and get it done by my uniqueness to connect or encourage or have empathy for somebody, but it really wasn't enough. And so it began this quest to think differently about it and think, okay, well, how could I do it? Well, I could do it through the uniquenesses of other people. And so it's working with a team. It's saying, "Hey, this person has some skills. Let's ask them for help, or let's bring them in, and maybe they can help sharpen the sword." And so that was one where I had to begin thinking differently on a topic that really no one wants to say. Yeah, I'm a procrastinator. I mean, who goes out and says that? Nobody. But you have to be or I had to be honest with myself, or someone had to be honest with me and say, "Hey, look, this is what it is, Doug. You're trying to get by just off your own personality." So I had to change my thinking on that.
And I don't do this much on our podcast, but I'm going to interrupt the podcast right now to point out to those of you that are watching that Gimbal Financial is open for business. We are financial advisors, and if you have friends and family that are looking for financial advisors, one of our key principles is to buy wisdom, and that's part of this podcast. We're offering the wisdom that we share that's unique to others in our industry, and we love to help people. So if you know anybody that's looking for an advisor, we're here for them.
Now back to the show.
So here's the first one that came to mind for me, and it's a bit of a tongue twister. But I was thinking back to my younger days, and it is this: the thing you think is the thing usually isn't the thing, and I got in a lot of trouble making mistakes when I thought the thing that was the thing was the thing, and it wasn't the thing. And so I wrote down some examples of what I had to learn. Like in my 20s, an example of that would be I might be sitting in a restaurant with friends, and then a family over in the corner would be eating, and their kid would be blowing a gasket and disruptive. And I remember thinking, man, when I'm a parent, that ain't happening. That's a small example. Is like, I thought the thing was my pleasure in the restaurant, when the real thing is, man, we need more kids in the world. Like we need, as a culture, need more kids. And then the one that's real common, I think, for a lot of people is, and I'm paraphrasing what I've heard, is, man, my dad was so stupid when I was 18. I was shocked by how wise he was when I was 25. Like he really got smart in those years, right? And so that one, I had to really I had the temptation of regrets over that, because I didn't know what I didn't know in that really sweet spot of life where I could have embraced my dad, but my dad's health was deteriorating. So I didn't really get to embrace my dad as an adult because of that mindset, which I don't really regret it, because I think it's a pretty normal mindset for people between 18 and 30 to think their parents just fell off the apple cart, you know? And then there's many of these kind of things that I thought was the thing as a financial advisor, Like I thought highest performance, I thought giving the clients all the right answers, I thought all that was the thing with my 20s with the business. And I realized that most people want somebody they can bounce ideas off that'll be honest with them and put forth the effort to help them make the best decisions they can make. And that's not what I thought for many years in this business. And I concerned myself with stuff that didn't matter.
Yeah, I think currently, as I take this journey of where am I today on thinking differently, probably the most exciting one that I'm at right now um, was really I was sparked to think differently by my son who just graduated high school. He spent 4 years with an outstanding world class organization, the Carmel High School Marching Band. And this is a high performance group. In his 4 years, they took third place in a national championship once, second twice, and first once. In Avon High School, just across 465. And we're talking the nation was competing, but Avon High School kicked Carmel's butt. And they did it being great competitors. And so, one of the things I've learned from my son was that you can truly learn to compete differently. You could either compete to beat someone, and what's that? A zero sum game, Keith, where you have one winner, one loser.
Right.
Is that right? And
Yeah.
so you can do that, and there's plenty of examples of that, and that's fine. But what I learned from my son in Carmel High School and Avon High School was these two were making each other better. And my son shared a different view of competition with me that, hey, I'm not even embarrassed to tell you I learned it from him and I just learned it recently. But it's this idea that I'm going to show up, I'm going to give my very best I can today. And I'm competing against Keith Tyner. I am bringing my best for Keith so that Keith can bring his best for Libby so that Libby can bring her best for Phil. And so like when we're doing that, when we're bringing something to the table, we're doing it to elevate somebody else or to elevate a certain culture or a belief, then you can have win-wins. And I just love that my son modeled that for me. It's a great view of competition. I think competition is great. I think it's what drives a lot of success in America, in the world. I think it's what drives personal development and enlightenment and thinking differently. Because how would you know if you didn't know? Well, someone else has to show you the way. And what better person than your family member or the persons that you spend most of your time with throughout the day?
Boy, I love that. I I had my daughter, Caitlin, was a gifted artist with a camera a lot of times. And what when I think of it, all of my kids have taught me tons of stuff that I needed to know that I would have never known without having them, I don't think. But the one that came to mind while you're talking about Warner was Caitlin is just really good at photography. And I would go, oh, that would make a good picture over there because of how I saw it. And then with our conversations, I realized that she sees the world differently than I literally sees it differently. And by realizing that she sees the world differently, that we're never going to see the world the same because the way she's created, and it means that her thought process is going to be different than me. And I probably had to be in my 40s before I realized this because I had probably mostly seen the world black and white. And when I saw it from an artist's mindset, I realized, there's all sorts of people out there. And so that was quite a learning process for me is that I don't necessarily have to agree with everybody, but I don't know how they frame what they see sometimes. And so it gives me a lot more patience.
Well, one of the things that you did during that time, when Caitlin was really into photography, is you challenged her to take a bad picture. And I think setting a standard and then not reaching it, I don't know if she ever took a bad picture or not, but if you can say, "Hey, I've got a standard here," and even if you don't reach it and you fail, so you're asking her to fail. If you can fail, I think what that's going to do for a person, what it's done is it has shown me some humility. It's caused me to think beyond the circumstance and to uh, really dive deep into what it takes to sharpen myself or sharpen you or sharpen each other or even have a disagreement about what a standard is and then be able to go back and say, hey, let's recenter this and let's improve and get better. And so failure through competition is a wonderful thing not to be afraid of. And that's the greatest place to start. I wrote down a couple of things like how would you start thinking differently? And my friend Ken gave me a question a few years ago. Um, and I would ask if you want to think differently, um, I would ask yourself this. I'd say, what am I afraid of? Like currently, what am I afraid of? And that could be something that happened to you in sixth grade and you're still afraid of it. That's okay. It could be something that it's a what if scenario. I don't know what it is, but what am I afraid of? And then I would set a standard where you can fail at that and share it with somebody because that person will challenge you. They'll be real with you. And then you'll be much sharper because of it.
I asked
I think that goes along with our feedback conversation, actually.
I asked Libby a question a while ago. I forgot. Did I ask you, are you afraid to be wrong? Or what, is that what I asked? Yeah. So I asked Libby if she was afraid to be wrong because I don't ask that to intimidate her. I just want to know her personality. Like, be honest with me, tell me about it. And so in my 20s, I thought being wrong was a big deal because that's kind of how I've been trained. You know, if I didn't get a 90 or better or an A, that I was lesser of a person. And so to learn to be wrong and take that natural feedback is a big deal. And I was talking to my friend John a while ago, and I told him one of the principles, there used to be a restaurant in Indianapolis called Big Dick's Dogs. I don't know if you remember that. Bob and Tom used to harass the name all the time. And Dick was a friend of mine. And I was telling my friend this morning, I said, Dick taught me this little phrase: do the thing you fear the most, and the death of fear is near. And I was in my 20s when he said it, and I learned it, and I was like, oh, so I'm not putting the scary thing at the end of my to-do list. It's going at the beginning of my to-do list, so I can just deal with the bad thing first in my day and go on. And so over the years, that little quip helped focus me on getting bad things done early in my day so I could stay focused the rest of the day. So here's a story on me. I don't even have my pen. I started collecting pens for some reason. Well, I know the reason. It's a long story, but I thought I would buy a luxury pen. I was going to buy a golden Mont Blanc. Like it, nobody would have known how bougie it was, but it was fancy. And so I take my lawn chair out. I put it on the sidewalk. I was going to just sit outside and get on the auction. It was an auction. I had my computer. My computer's open. I set it down there, got the auction site up. I went and did something, came back, grabbed my computer, and somehow on the touchpad, I had made a bid on an unknown auction. And unbeknownst to me, it was the winning bid. And I had no idea what I bid on. Like, this auction had things from $10 to $20,000. And so my heart's beating and I pick it up and then it goes, you won. I'm like,
I did. What competition did I just win?
Consequently, I never bid on that pen because I won, I think it was $2,500 is what I won. And I'm like, oh, I got to go tell Connie what I did. Like,
No, that's what it costs.
yeah. Yeah. And it was a picture with a Roy Campanella autographed baseball on it. And I think Roy Campanella is a Hall of Famer, but I couldn't care less about it because
Right.
it's not my thing. And so I thought maybe they'll let me out of this. They said, we will let you out of it for $700. And so I'm thinking, to win, I just had to bid over somebody else, right? So like the market was probably one bid less than my bid, which was at $700. And my thought was, I'll pay for this thing. And so hanging in my wall in my study is that picture. And what that picture reminds me every time I see it is everybody makes mistakes. That was an expensive one, but I can't think of a better thing to hang in my study than just the humility of knowing there's a Keith mistake. And when somebody makes a mistake around me, it's not all that deep because they're
good.
Unless they, I wrote in my notes that being wrong isn't a big deal. Being wrong about the same thing repeatedly is.
Yeah.
And that's where humility comes in, that you learn from your mistakes. Well, thanks for having this conversation with me.
Oh, this is good, Keith. I hope others listening are having the conversation with themselves. And if it's interesting or you just want to let it out, we're a phone call away.
Yeah, don't be afraid to try something new today and see what happens. It's not going to be that big a deal. And in the meantime,
Rise up.
Have a great weekend, everybody.